What's up, guys and girls? So in this video, it's going to be a different kind of video that I make. Instead of doing like an analysis on God of War, I want to talk about a very controversial things. Everybody always says their opinion, but I always keep my mouth shut. I don't bring it up. But I really want to talk about this because, again, a lot of people are talking about it, and I do have a very strong opinion. And I'm actually going to defend David Jaffe because David Jaffe brought up this whole DLC thing once again. I'll go through everything, and I would love to hear what you all think as well. Before we talk about David Jaffe, I want to talk about Twitter for a minute. Every single time a new game comes out, there are a specific group of people that always makes these wild claims that sequels do look too much like the originals and that they criticize the game for it. And one of the things that was brought up a lot was that God of War Ragnarok looks too much like God of War 2018 by the way that Kratos gets in the boat. Now, look, I have an issue with these type of statements. Even though I am going to defend David Jaffe in a second, I do have an issue with the way this group of people really portray video games and how sequels are supposed to work. These are the same people that make complaints that Horizon Forbidden West looks too much like the original game by the way Aloy, the main character, jumps off a cliff and slides down a rope. This was the same group of people that said Spider-Man PS4 looks bad because during a gameplay presentation there was a puddle of water on the floor and people were upset because this puddle did not look good. It was called Puddlegate or something like that. You can Google it yourself. This shit actually exists. And of course it came after God of War saying that this game looks too much like the original game. Now, first off, I want to say that I don't think these people have ever played a sequel in their life. I'm going to name off some sequels off the top of my head that look like the original because, again, it's the same damn story. Infamous 1 and Infamous 2. These games look the exact same, but no one ever brought up this DLC argument. Because it's obviously not, because the one game looks like the other game because it's the same damn story with the same characters, and the same characters can do the same things as they can before. The game just builds upon Cole and Infamous in general with the sequels. I'll give you another one. Last of Us 1 and 2. It's the same fucking format, except it's built on top of one another. But let me point out something that's a little bit closer to home. God of War 1, 2, 3, Chains of Olympus, Ghost of Sparta, and God of War Ascension. These games look exactly the same, but they are not the same. There are mechanics built upon it. It's a different story, different environment, different things Kratos can do, but nobody was really bringing up this fucking DLC argument. That is downright ridiculous, and again, these people have probably never played a sequel video game if they're nitpicking to this extent. But why am I talking about this now? Because quotes from David Jaffe actually once again reignited this conversation. Here's what David Jaffe have to say, and then I will come in and reply.
Let me say, again, it does look like DLC for the most part to me. DLC is not a bad thing. God of War 2018 was one of my favorite games that came out that year, and beyond that, it was a phenomenal game. Loved it. And if what God of War Ragnarok is simply more of that, maybe pushed a little bit, great, I'll play it and I'll enjoy it. But my whole video or my whole comment was about the trailer didn't make me feel. Now, it made other people feel, and that's great, but it didn't make me feel, and clearly it didn't make you feel that either, because you're saying you didn't see anything that, felt all that different compared to like even God of War 1 and God of War 2 back in the day. So I was just saying, yeah, I'm excited to play it because it's God of War, but the trailer was it was okay.
Now, the difference between David Jaffe and these people on Twitter that are putting out these hate tweets and they get attention because they are, in fact, hate tweets, it is completely and utterly different. David Jaffe was making a point saying that God of War Ragnarok looks like God of War 2018 because, it's the same damn story, and God of War 2018 is Game of the Year, so this is perfectly okay. It's okay that God of War Ragnarok looks a little bit too much like God of War 2018, and I think this is what David Jaffe meant, and he pretty much said so as well. Over on his Twitter, he made a response pretty much saying exactly how I said it, and this is how I took what David Jaffe said. I didn't take it as David Jaffe talking shit about God of War Ragnarok. What he's saying is actually true, that it's okay that Ragnarok looks like 2018 because 2018 was Game of the Year. It was almost a perfect video game, at least to my and many other people's opinions. You're allowed to have your own. But the fact is that God of War 2018 is the prequel to Ragnarok. They look the same because of this. But people are taking what David Jaffe said way out of proportion. I think what David Jaffe should have said was, what he thought, but not use the term DLC. And I think this is what caused the issue. Jaffe is not, insulting God of War, not insulting their devs. He just shouldn't have used the term DLC, and people shouldn't really be mad at him for it. He meant it in the most sincere way possible. He wasn't talking shit. At least that is what I take from this whole entire situation. Most controversies are pretty stupid, and this is the reason why I never exactly talked about them. The whole Thor being fat thing, how there was a huge uproar, and especially Angry Boda being black. Even I got flack for that, as if I created that character, and you had a lot of people saying a lot of racist things for 5 days straight, just, blasting out the N-word in the most creative way possible, so YouTube can, can't censor it, because they're putting in, symbols and shit in it, and it's blocking, it's not blocking the N-word being thrown around. I think when it comes to gaming controversies, people just love to get mad at anything, and this whole DLC thing is probably the stupidest argument I've ever seen brought up to this extent, and it kind of pisses me off in a way, just because this is completely and utterly, it's a garbage argument. It's one thing to criticize a game, right? Like, oh, you don't think the animations look good. That is different from the animations look exactly the same from God of War 2018, which it clearly fucking doesn't. I honestly wish that this whole sequels are just DLC argument to just kind of die, right? How do you expect Kratos to jump in a boat? Do you want him to do a front flip, some Olympics type shit? Well, he is from Greece, right? But it's honestly one of the stupidest things that you can put on the internet, and I don't get this argument. If you think God of War Ragnarok is DLC, or you consider it DLC, or it doesn't change enough for you to consider it DLC, then how much does a game that is a sequel needs to change, right? If you're okay with God of War Trilogy, and you're not calling that DLC, but you're calling this DLC, then please explain why in the comments. I will love to talk about it, because this is pretty weird. But yeah, that's it for this video. Those are my thoughts. I want to talk about more controversial topics on the channel, because I enjoy talking about controversial stuff. I just tend not to. Like the response of when people were calling me the N-word nonstop, and I put it on Twitter, everybody was like, don't fucking post it, don't post this, you should just ignore them. And I don't know, I think it's time I shed a light in this and I stop being quiet. And I don't get why when I talk about racism in video games where people are being racist, people don't want to see it over on Twitter. I find that so odd, but yet they will entertain this DLC bullshit. This is just a little part of me that you don't exactly see. This part of me that gets really angry with stupid ass arguments that I see on the internet. But that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. I'm gonna be out of here. Thank you guys and girls for listening. Deuces.